I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring your ass.
These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
Hey, Chuck. Bring your ass back. Bring your ass back to Minnesota.
Come on back.
Don't let him get one, as they say. It's Flagrant Howls live on the Score North YouTube channel. Positive Phil here with our guy Artis Woods. You see him on the Taxi Squad podcast and hear him. You see him and hear him on 4 Wolves Takes on the Score North YouTube channel and Flagrant Howls podcast feed. And the Timberwolves fight off the Dallas Mavericks 105-100 to stay alive. 3 games to 1 now. No team in NBA history has ever overcome a 3-0 deficit. And I think I've been saying this, Positive Phil, he's been hard on Karl Anthony Towns, but on the other side has said, at some point, your best shooter is not going to shoot 27% from the field. At some point, he's going to go on a barrage. He knocks down 4 3-pointers. The foul trouble was annoying, but he shows up for the first time in the series and carries the Wolves for a stretch late in this game. And at some point, Artis, at some point in NBA history, somebody is going to overcome a 3-0 deficit. The Timberwolves coming back home in Game 5. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, literally what you just said is what I've been saying all day. At some point, it's going to happen. Somebody's going to come back from 3-0. Why not it be the Wolves? Now, I mean, I also want to be positive, Phil, to an extent. I don't want to go as far as to say Wolves in 7 now. But, I mean, they got a game. And honestly, when they lost Game 2, blowing that 18-point lead, that still haunts me right now, especially right now that they've won this game. Should be 2-2. But when they lost that game, in my mind, I'm like, look, they're not going to win both games in Dallas. Just got to be honest. Like, I never expected them to win both. But if they can get one, I mean, we've seen the team come back from 3-1. And that's the kind of mindset I would have if I'm Coach Finch. Like, we ain't seen 3-0, but we've seen 3-1. We've seen those comebacks in the NBA before. So, Karl Anthony Towns, I also tweeted earlier today, like, I'm just thinking, I'm like, how can they come back and win this series? Or at least get a game, get it back to Minnesota. Cat has to play well. And as you stated before on previous episodes, he was shooting so bad. I mean, terribly. He's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. This can only happen for so long. He has to have at least one good shooting night, right? And sure enough, tonight he shoots the lights out, got to the line a little bit, got some layups going, got to see the ball go through the net, and got the shot to fall. This is what they needed to get back in this thing. And I mean, now we're going back to Minnesota.
Yeah, let's definitely do a big Karl Anthony Towns conversation, a big Anthony Edwards conversation. What was it? 29, 10, and 9 in this game. I mean, this was a desperate sort of throwback to like the early LeBron James days where either you're playing with you're either like going without a Robin or your guys are in foul trouble and it's just kind of on you to keep this thing alive. Hostile environment, back against the wall, so to speak. Not a perfect game by Anthony Edwards, a bunch of turnovers. He was in foul trouble for different stretches, but he winds up playing 40 minutes. Like I said, flirts with a triple-double, just 1 assist shy of a triple-double. He plays a ton of defense on Luka Doncic in this game. They had him like the entire first quarter, basically. Ant was matched up on Luka, and for big-time stretches throughout the game. And Luka with one of his least efficient offensive nights, 7 for 21. Kyrie was a 6 for 18. I believe, let me do the math here. Luka 28, Kyrie 16. That's 44. And Towns and Edwards had a combined, 54 points. The first time in the series that the Wolves' 2 best offensive players outperformed and outscored the Mavericks' 2 best offensive players. So we'll do a deep dive into those 2 guys here. But I just want to throw this out. We can turn this into a vent line celebration. This is either going to lead to something that increasingly gets more fun over the next few days, or maybe it was just like the Wolves sitting up like the Undertaker with pride one last time. Either way, we'd love to hear from you guys. We will open up the vent lines. We'll use the Vikings vent line email address. So I'm just staring at the inbox right now. Send me an email at vikingsventline@gmail.com. vikingsventline@gmail.com. And we'll get a few of you guys in the room so you can chime in with us here on this live edition of Flagrant Howls. People asking where the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, is. So unfortunately, a few days ago, his brother-in-law passed away due to cancer. And so he's with family yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and he should be back in the mix later on this week. But yeah, if you see him on Twitter or even in the YouTube comment section, just be thinking about Judd and his family and his wife Dawn, and the sports dad will be back in the mix later on this week from Target Center, by the way, where we will get at least one more game. So this was kind of the classic all over the map Karl Anthony Towns experience where he comes out, dude, he did not take a 3-pointer until halfway through the third quarter. He winds up with 2 early fouls, picks up his 5th foul like halfway through the third quarter, and then picks up the 6th foul later on. But between the 5th and the 6th foul, when he came back in, he was the best player on the floor for a really key stretch. And if it wasn't for that stretch, the Wolves do not win this game and extend the series. Then again, you'd like him to stay on the floor more often, as Anthony Edwards says, stop bleeping fouling. So you had like foul trouble Karl, you had hesitance to pull the trigger Karl for a while, but then you had the best version of Karl when they needed him the most, Artis, in the the early stages of the fourth quarter there.
Yeah, it was kind of all over the place, but it came together. My biggest thing with Cat has been watching this series. Sometimes, like I said earlier, sometimes, man, you just got to get to the rack at times, right? Or, you see they're packing the paint, they're taking charges, they're drawing you into those crazy offensive fouls. Man, where's the mid-range shot? Where's the mid-range floater in the lane? Because that's what they're looking to do, because they know 9 times out of 10, most likely, if Cat isn't taking a 3, he's attacking the basket the same way, right? And so my biggest thing is like, Cat, man, get to the free throw line, get to the mid-range game. The post game is the thing that bothers me, because I feel like Cat should be a better post player at this point in his career. I feel like he should, especially with him being such a great shooter. There's so many things you can go to. You could face up and shoot over the top. You could spin baseline, spin to the middle of the paint. There's so many different moves you could go to, especially as a shooter, and being a threat from the post. But he doesn't really go to any of that stuff. So it's like it's either 1 or 2, and I'm just like, man, to start the game, I was not mad at him at all. Me and my fiance watching the game together, and she's like, he's attacking the basket, yes. And I'm like, yeah, attack the basket, get to the free throw line, get a couple shots to fall. Then he got like an and one, I believe, on Derek. Yeah. And after the and one, and he shot the free throw all net, I said he's gonna start jacking threes, and I want him to. Now shoot the threes. Literally next possession, 3. My fiance is like, no. I'm like, let him shoot this one. Makes it. I'm like, okay, that's what a shooter needs. You just got to see it go through the net, get out of your head a little bit. So I appreciated what I saw from Cat tonight. You brought up the fouls though. The fouls are mind-boggling sometimes. He gets that same like body check blocking foul almost every game at the top of the key or at the half court line, and it's like by now you would think, come on, Cat. Come on, man. Like that's at least one foul he's guaranteed. And the over the back, like kind of like his toes are still on the floor and he's just reaching over the back. I feel like these, it's the Cat experience, man. Yeah. It's frustrating to watch, but he did his job tonight. He balled out. He was that number 2 to Anthony Edwards, who also had a really good game. I just feel like they need Ant to be aggressive. Even last game, even if the shot isn't falling, just by him getting to the rack, him getting a dunk, him getting a layup, or even missing shots, but guys getting offensive rebounds and putbacks, those are huge, right? Because they're points at the end of the day and they get everybody going. So just a total effort from both of those guys. And like I said, I like what I saw for the most part.
Dude, I think on the Anthony Edwards front, he is such a fast learner and processor. He's 22 years old. It feels like, first of all, his game elevates in the playoffs every year he's been in the playoffs, even when he was 20 years old. Go look at his scoring averages. Go look at even like some of the deep dive analytics. His pull-up shooting goes from being kind of below average in the regular season to Kevin Durant-like in the postseason. Just almost everything about his game elevates. And even within this series, I don't know, you tell me if I'm just like making things up here, Artis, but I feel like he watches Luka operate and he watches Luka manipulate defenses and rifle passes to like he gets into the lane, looks for his first, because if he can get a little mid-range, 12, 15, 16 footer, that's an efficient shot for Ant. But then he's rifling it to to Jaden McDaniels, to Mike Conley in the corner. And now he's learning how to grab key rebounds in big moments too, how to read the ball off the rim. I almost feel like he's watching Luka play chess at a high level, and he's like importing some of that information on the fly at age 22 and adding to his own game. Like, we don't see a lot of 29, 10, and 9s from Anthony Edwards in his career. And so I don't think it's a coincidence that when your team needs it the most and Luka's doing it on the other side, that he says, oh, okay, I can download some of this and I can get to another level with my rebounding, with my passing, my playmaking. and in my manipulation of the Dallas Mavericks defense.
Yeah, to your point about the mid-range shot, I think just like Cat, I think he needs to go to that a little bit more too. Like sometimes I think he settles for taking those threes, and I like the threes, don't get me wrong. But sometimes I feel like the mid-range is there too for him, but he's shooting the ball cross court. And sometimes it works, other times it's out of bounds. Other times it's a turnover. But yeah, Coach Finch has to kind of be in his ear telling him to watch those things. When you go back and watch film, you can attack the defense the same way. You can exploit mismatches the same way, draw fouls, get into the paint, be patient the same way. Luka, I have a gripe. Let me get this off my chest really quick, Phil. Yeah. This is kind of off topic. Luka is one of the more frustrating players to watch in the game today. He's a great player. He'd probably go down as one of the best all-time players, you know, especially with this backcourt now with Kyrie. He's a sensational player. But, man, the way that man flops and jumps into guys, and then he gets frustrated. He gets mad when guys get physical with him. It's like, dude, what do you expect? You're well over 200-something pounds jumping into guys, and it's like, where's the foul? Oh, man, don't bump me. It's like, dude, are you serious? But I say all that to say, Ant, you could do a lot of the same things Luka does on the basketball floor. I don't think Luka is a better overall offensive talent than Ant. I just think he's a tick bit more advanced from, you know, the mental side of the game so far.
Yeah, he definitely, and Luka, by the way, he just turned 25. And the way that he dissects a defense and sets up the screens and manipulates the way, he's doing it like a 31-year-old who's been in the league for 12 years would do it. And to your point about the Wolves getting physical with Luka and him sort of just kind of pushing back and complaining to the refs, and early in the game, the Wolves took a 12-point lead. It evaporated as it does when you're playing on the road and you're playing these two great offensive players. But building up that lead helped the Wolves be able to absorb a run. The game is still tied instead of you being down by 10. And part of the reason why the Wolves took that 12-point lead to begin with, to what you were talking about, is because they were physical with Luka. You know, Rudy ran him over at one point. There was another play. There was two plays where they got really physical with him in the first half, and he did not like it. He stepped up at one point to either Kyle Anderson or somebody, but you're thinking, like, where was that? It's almost like the Wolves were treating the Mavericks with a little too much respect or just a little too friendly. I think it was Reggie Miller on the broadcast that mentioned it took the Wolves until Game 4 to find disdain for their opponent. You know, it was pretty evident even in the sweep over Phoenix that those two teams were kind of sick of each other after like Game 2. And then the Denver series, those two teams having played each other twice in the playoffs. And it really felt like it took the Wolves until Game 4 to say, I don't care if he's Luka Doncic or some random dude off the bench. Let's not be dirty, but let's show him that we're here. Let's be physical. Let's run him over a couple times and see how he reacts to it. And it kind of threw Dallas off their game for the first part of that first half tonight.
Yeah, and like I was also thinking going into this game, like, dude, like how long are those two guys, Kyrie and Luka, gonna shoot the lights out? They were hitting shots, and I think the physicality helps them, you know, especially Kyrie earlier in the game, because it was kind of bumping him around a bit too and kind of knocked him off his rhythm. But Kyrie coming into this game, he was averaging like, 28 points, shooting like 43% from three, 52% from the field. Luka was, putting up close to 30, shooting 46, 47% from the field, 40% from three. I'm like, you got to try something. You got to try being physical. I honestly thought during this series, I had the Wolves winning this series in 6 or in 5, in all honesty, because I just thought that Jaden and Ant would just be a tick better defensively against those guys. But they were missing a ton of the physicality, I feel like. They were missing a ton of the physicality. And I feel like a side of them, and maybe even this was a bit coaching too, I think that they feared foul trouble. In all honesty, like Luka and Kyrie get calls for them nonstop all game long. And so it's like you can be physical with these guys, but you got to also stay out of foul trouble. And I think that this game, they just said, look, this is it. This is it. This is back against the wall completely. We don't want to get swept. Let's get physical with them. If we get in foul trouble, heck, we get in foul trouble, but they will feel us this game, and it worked to their advantage.
Yeah, there was a nothing to lose feeling about the way the Wolves were playing. Let's be more physical. Obviously, a bunch of dudes got in foul trouble early. Rudy got to 3 fouls early and then eventually racked up more in the second half. And even Ant was in foul trouble. But then, like, you get to a certain point where, okay, you're Carl and you haven't made a shot the whole series and you got 5 fouls halfway through the third. You come back in the game, like, your season's going to be over if you don't just sort of eliminate all of it and start chucking, and he did. And I still think now it's like the pressure at this point, it's not
gone.
Total. It's gone for the Wolves for the entire series. Like there is no more pressure on the Timberwolves. Maybe like we can talk if it gets to a game 7, we can talk about like who feels pressure, but it's gone right now. It's going to be gone in game 5. And Dallas is going to feel really tight if they can get this thing to a game 6, because you don't want to have to go back to Minnesota for a game 7. So this is a lot of ifs and sort of, it's a lot of hypotheticals to get to 3 more wins in the series. But like you said, no one's come back from down 3-0, but there's been teams come back from down 3-1, and that's what the math is right now. Yeah. So he's our guy, Artis Woods. You can find him on the Score North YouTube channel a couple times a week on the Taxi Squad with his 4 Wolves takes, also on the Flagrant House podcast feed. I am Phil Mackey, and we will get to David and Jake and Will and a bunch of others here for a Wolves Vent Line live on the Score North YouTube channel. I've had a bunch of people over the last week, and Declan too, and Kyle has one of these now too. Like, where'd you guys get those hats? Where'd you guys get those badass little Minnesota logos with the Wolves howling in them? And it's a great company called Legendary Golf. You can find all sorts of hats like these and great apparel at lgndy.co. And we partner with them to offer a 20% off discount site-wide with the promo code HOWL, HOWL, at checkout. Promo code HOWL at checkout for 20% off your order. Veteran-owned, family-operated, Minnesota-based company. And when I say veteran-owned, they donate a portion of all proceeds to veteran organizations. So it's a great cause. You can go online again at lgndy.co, lgndy.co. Promo code HOWL for 20% off your order. They also do custom apparel for businesses and events, so check them out. We appreciate them partnering with us here on Score North Podcast. Any other just like final broad takes, and we'll get back to, I got a bunch of other stuff for you too before we get to Wolves fans, artists. Anything else that like stood out that we should address real quick here?
Well, for one, I did want to make sure I said this. Guys, every time I've been slated to come on Flagrant House, the Wolves have won. I just wanted to say that. So
What's your record
Artis
now?
Woods,
You
3-0? 3-0. I'm 3-0. So I think Artis Woods deserves
Be on standby, dude. Be on standby here for Game 5 in a couple nights.
Hey, I'm always ready. I'm always ready. I just think I deserve like 1% credit, just 1%.
No, I think it's more than that, man. I think it's
5.
the artist vibes, man. It's the artist vibes that you're bringing to the series here.
I try, man. I try to bring that optimism. I try to bring that. I try to bring the flavor. A little flavor. Results in Wolves victories. But one more thing I'll add to this. I really think, and Reggie's been saying it all series, man. Luka, you could tell the last like minute and a half in that game, he dragging that leg, man. He dragging it. And I don't know why Coach Finch is not attacking him on offense more. Like, it's weird to me. Like, they've said it all broadcast tonight. They let Luka just sit in the corner or sit, on the baseline in the paint and just watch everything go down. And he kind of plays like free safety back there. And it's like, why are they not attacking him? Or do exactly what the Mavs do. The Mavs love to play the switch game, right? They know the Wolves want to switch everything. We want to target Rudy Gobert. We want to target Naz Reid, Karl Anthony Towns, whoever it is. Somebody's in foul trouble. Let's target him. Let's get a switch, and let's try to exploit that. I think the Wolves need to do a better job of doing that going forward with Luka Doncic and other players. These guys are great offensive players, Luka and Kyrie, but they're not great defenders. Yeah. So attack them, go at them, especially Luka, who's clearly not 100%, and then he might not be the same in the fourth. I agree. I think like making him work a little bit more. You're right. His leg. I mean, a lot of guys are banged up. Anthony Edwards, clearly his tailbone was bothering him in the first part of the series. If you look at just the way, I think some of the fatigue also might have just been soreness for him. But everyone's got something. Carl's leg got smashed into, like 2 weeks ago. But to your point, making Luka work a little bit more instead of just camping out. I mean, he's picked up a couple. I think tonight he picked up 2 different defensive 3-second calls because he's just like resting in the lane on defense. Yeah,
I don't think he's like playing a zone. He's just like getting a breather and forgets to leave and go touch his guy on defense. One other thing, just to bring up here. Are you a baseball fan at all, Artis? You're mostly football and basketball, right?
Mostly football and basketball, yeah. I can relate a little bit though.
So in 2004. the Boston Red Sox were coming off back-to-back 90-win seasons. Mm-hmm. In 2002, they won 93 games, but I believe it was the Yankees above them in the American League East. They didn't make the playoffs with 93, but they had a really good team. All right, we've built this thing. We feel like we're ready to pop, and there's just a couple teams at the top. We didn't even get to the playoffs. And then 2003 comes along, and they get to the playoffs. Another 90-plus win team. They've got the horses. They've got Pedro Martinez, best starting pitcher of his generation. They got a lineup just full of dudes who mash. Manny Ramirez, all these guys. They get to a Game 7 against the Yankees in the playoffs. Aaron Boone hits a walk-off grand slam to send the Red Sox home. Okay, dust yourself off again. Come back. 2004 comes around. Red Sox, even better. Kurt Schilling in the rotation. Pedro Martinez, lineup. David Ortiz. They got all these dudes up and down. And they are the team. Everyone's looking at them the whole season. They are the team to beat, and they fall behind 3-0 to the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. And for the 2 days, I think it was a day or maybe between games, it was just this feeling of dread. How did this happen? They're not better than us. I mean, yeah, they're the Yankees, but like, we got a damn good team here. How could we possibly be down 3-0? And what they did was, before Game 4, the Red Sox said, well, we got nothing to lose. Nobody ever comes back in these series. We feel like we are the better team. We're just in a bad spot. Let's all rip a bunch of shots of whiskey before the game, play loose, and see what happens in Game 4. They go out, they take Game 4, walk-off win. Okay, let's do it again. Rip some shots before Game 5. Let's get it in Game 5. And the momentum starts to build. And they come all the way back 20 years ago to beat the Yankees in Game 7, and they go on, I believe, to sweep the World Series with their momentum over the, if I remember correctly, St. Louis Cardinals. I feel like, here's my grand point. Usually when a team in any sport, especially basketball, falls down 3-0, the team that's up 3-0 is clearly better. Like Boston, Indiana, right? Okay, Indiana's going to show some fight. Maybe they can steal a game at home and force a gentleman's sweep, but at the end of the day, Boston is just levels better than Indiana. And that goes for most of the time when a team takes a 3-0 lead. In this case, I don't know that you can say that Dallas is definitively better than the Timberwolves. They have beat the Timberwolves in 3 straight. They are better late-game executors because of Kyrie and Luka Doncic. And they are a better defensive team than people give them credit for. But this isn't your normal 3-0 lead that you can just, maybe they'll get one and then we'll just flick them off our arm like a gnat. This is a real team that you just let pick up a game, and now they're going back home. So Timberwolves, rip some shots of whiskey, whatever you have to do before Game 5. Don't feel any pressure. Go get Game 5 and see what happens in Game 6.
I couldn't have said it better. I mean, they're there. They got it. They got a game. We've seen 3-1 comebacks. As long as the stars continue to play well, and your role players will play well again at home. They'll play better. The role players for Dallas will not play. They have been playing lights out in Dallas. I don't see it happening in Minnesota. So obviously you got to key in on Kyrie, who didn't have a great night, Luka as well. But as long as Karl-Anthony Towns, the key is him carrying this momentum now throughout the series. Same with Anthony Edwards, who has found his groove. If you could just carry this going forward, you can win in Minnesota. And then Game 6 is a dogfight in Dallas again. And every game, like you said, every game has been close. It's just about closing. But if guys are in rhythm and guys are making shots, you got a shot. The problem is a lot of times in these late games, Carl doesn't have it going. Anthony Edwards is turning the ball over. And I know this is way off topic, but the Wolves going forward, they need another offensive, distributor, offensive playmaker, offensive scorer outside of Anthony Edwards on the perimeter. That's off-season talk, but those are thoughts that go through my head when I watch. Like, they need another guy that can get his own shot on the offensive end on the perimeter besides Ant, because it's too much on him. But if Cat can continue to elevate, Nas give us another great game like Game 2.
Yep,
it's possible.
Yep. No, Cat kind of feels like, and again, these are more off-season conversations, but Cat kind of feels like a 2.5 or a third, like a third or like a 2.5 on a championship team if he's going to win a championship. But we'll see, because there's plenty of time for those off-season speculative conversations. Let's go to David here. Wolves vent line on Flagrant Howls. David, What's your level of faith right now, my friend?
Man, I'm excited. I mean, obviously, getting one. We knew this team had fight in it, and so to get one, you had to get one in Dallas to prove, to the world that we're back and we're in this thing. I want to take it back. March 29th, I lived down here in Colorado, drove up to Denver, and saw something that I haven't seen very often in this game, and that is that the Wolves just put the beat down on the Nuggets. And I think that in some ways, we've seen the fight in this team, even late in the season. I know they didn't take first place. I know they didn't end up with home court through the whole thing, but we know this team has fight. We know it has heart. And I just feel like it's finally like a series for the first time, right? Like even after game 1 loss, game 2 loss, it just, I don't know, like all the energy dissipated and all that positivity. We know this team's special. And the second thing I want to say is that the other thing I like to see down the stretch tonight is with Karl in foul trouble and on the bench, Ant was getting different looks that are important for him to develop. It wasn't just the fadeaways. It wasn't just the getting to the rack, but there was something about the bank shot late that I just really like to see. You get that sense that like that shot is just going to be there, right? If he gets any separation, he gets out on a wing. He had it in the lane. I mean, there was something about his development tonight with Cat kind of in foul trouble. I think it was really important long term.
Yeah, great points, David, dude. Thank you for coming on Wolves Vent Line here. That bank shot, I can't remember if it was a 3-point game, but it was close enough, and the Wolves needed a bucket to create some space there. And Ant is dribbling up, and you can tell he's gassed. He's been guarding Luka for much of the night, 40 minutes, elimination game. Karl's been in foul trouble, and he's just had his. And by the way, he's grabbing rebounds, he's creating open looks for teammates, and he just pulls up from like 18 feet, elbow extended, and finds that sweet spot off the glass. That's the element of his game that didn't really exist in the first 3 years of his career.
Yep.
And he added it during the offseason. I don't know if it was like during the FIBA World Cup run. He found some extra gym time to mix in that mid-range bank shot, and he is super comfortable taking those shots. Not a lot of guys in the NBA would even take those bank shots with the game on the line, and he does it with pretty high efficiency, man.
That's one of his shots, and that's one of his spots on the floor. I've heard you guys talk about it, and I've had the same thought. Like, he has to figure out over time, and I think maybe Team USA will help him with this, like going forward in the offseason, but he has to do a good job or find a way to find his spots on the floor. What's your hot spots? Same thing with Karl. Sometimes I wonder what his hot spots are, but like find your hot spots on the floor and, right elbow, left elbow, bank shot, like that's right wing. That's kind of that's his space where he gets to that shot. It's a knockdown. It's a knockdown shot, even over a double team half of the time. Yeah. So, which means put him on the block or put him in that area a little bit more, take him off the ball, get him to that spot already so that he could turn around, see the double team, see where it's coming from, and either shoot over the top or make a decisive decision.
And he makes quick passes, great quick passes out of those double teams too. So, and it's like, and those are a little bit easier passes to make because you're essentially centered, right? It's a shorter distance to the other corner. So, let's get Jake in the mix next on Flagrant Howls. What up, Jake?
Hey, I got to bring it back to I really love that you brought up the 04 Red Sox. I've been feeling that the last couple days. I can't remember who said it, but it was like it was before Game 4 in that series. I think it was one of the Red Sox coaches. He's like, "Don't let us win today," and they let him win today. They let him win, and we beat the Mavs tonight. I've been positive. I've been positive, Jake, all postseason. Really, just I like I said, I think this team is special. I think they can still come back in this series. I really like that we put Jaden on Kyrie tonight. I think you holding him in check. Like Kyrie's a freak, right? But he only got 16. I mean, if you look at the rest of the series, you look at this playoffs. It's like. You held him to 16. I think that's important. Switching Kyrie or switching Jaden onto Kyrie and then Ant onto Luka. Obviously, Luka had some crazy shots tonight. Cannot believe. I mean, I thought Trae Young was the biggest flopper in the NBA. I think Kyrie is, or not Kyrie. I think Luka's got He's an absolute. He's the biggest baby. Like when he fouls somebody and they call it, and then he gets fouled, and then he's just like chirping at the refs. It's like, I get it, dude, but it's like, come on, man. Like some of the things, like I don't. And Artis, you said this earlier, like maybe Ant should do more of that. Honestly, like I'm old school. I don't want Ant to do that. I like when Ant goes to the rack, and I like when he doesn't flinch and he just blows through guys. And yeah, he gets fouled, but he doesn't get called, and it sucks. I hate it. They got to change that. But yeah, man, I don't know. Love this Wolves team. Whatever happens Thursday, whatever happens the rest of this series, has been such a fun season. The most joy I've gotten from a Wolves team in 20 years. Let's just keep going. Let's win at home, and anything can happen.
Amen. Jake jumping on the old school Wolves jersey there too. Another thing that we haven't touched on that was a huge factor in this game, Derek Lively out indefinitely with, they're calling it like a neck strain. I don't know if they officially diagnosed him with a concussion, but I mean, he got rattled and he didn't play tonight. And he's been on the down low, one of the sneaky best plus minus players in the playoffs. And he comes in, he's a rim protector. He catches everything off the roll. Those little pocket passes too in the paint, like he's sure-handed, and he made a huge impact early in this series. And him being out tonight, I think, was huge. Anthony Edwards can get to the rack without having to go through as many trees. So that was we'll have to see what his status is going forward. But him being out for the Mavericks was a huge factor in that game tonight.
I think they were saying today on the broadcast that he should be back. He didn't have a concussion, which I just don't know if I really believe.
Dude, he was like wobbly on the bench.
I had the same that was my first thought, like, oh, he's got, obviously you don't wish that on anybody, but like first thought was, oh, he's got a concussion, man. He can barely open his eyes. He's wobbly. You know, we see it all the time in football. We've seen it in basketball. We've seen it in all sports, right? And he had the normal concussion look. So I'm shocked that he doesn't apparently have one. I'm hearing he might be back for Game 5. They're expecting him to be back, and I'm sure they want him back for Game 5 because they don't want to, go to a Game 6. And so I expect to see him back. And man, the bigs that they have. That's one thing I underestimated going into this series. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, I think the Wolves have the size advantage with, Rudy and Cat and Nas going into this series. They had it to an extent against the Nuggets, but Jokic is just so dominant, right? He just kind of dominated from time to time to paint. But these guys, Cat, Rudy, Nas, they got it. These guys, Gafford, Lively, these guys are so at PJ, they're so athletic.
They're solid. Like they've got. I think they've got better hands. I mean, how many times in the series have you seen Gafford like fumble a pass in the paint? Has he at all?
Not often. At all. Rudy, on the other hand, is sometimes it's like all over the place at times. Like, come on, Rudy, man, come on now. But yeah, their athleticism really just stands out. The lobs at the rim. I mean, I'm glad they've kind of slowed that down, but they've kind of given up the corner shots and a couple more threes in the process, which, I mean, I guess you got to take, right? But, yeah, I think he'll be back. Yeah,
Commenters are giving Artis his props. He's now 3-0 when he is on Flagrant Howls live after these playoff games. Let's go to Will. You're up next, man, on a live Flagrant Howls here.
3 things. Number 1, when Carl plays within himself, he lets the game come to him. He doesn't force the issue. He's really able to get it going. I think once he realized he had 5 fouls, and like you said, he had really nothing to lose, he was able to just kind of calm down, attack in a correct way, and just really find himself in that shot, which was number 2. They played insanely much more harder than they did on Game 3. The play that comes to mind is Nah diving, and I think it's fourth quarter, for that loose ball. Like, I didn't see that fire in games 1, 2, or 3. Not in long stretches. I think it was there in long stretches tonight. Number 3, are we getting Garnett on Thursday night?
Man, I mean, it's a great Will, dude. Thanks for coming on. I don't know what he's waiting for. If he's gonna show up to a playoff game, is he that confident that he's gonna wait for Game 7?
Right.
If either KG shows up to Game 5 or he's not showing up until Glenn Taylor is no longer the owner of this team.
Yeah, I thought for sure he'd be there for Game 2. I was shocked that he wasn't. And now with them losing Game 2 and, at the time being down 3-0, I'm like, okay, he said he would come, but now the Wolves might not give him an opportunity. So I'm hoping that now the Wolves have earned the opportunity to have KG come to a game. And like, I hope that he brings that extra fire, that extra juice that they need, man. KG, man, he's going to bring that juice. He's going to bring that fire. And hopefully he comes in and gives them what they need, man. They'll need a little extra something, just a little extra. Because I know Luka and Kyrie are going to come out.
Give him that powder to throw up in the air.
Yeah.
Bash his head against the stanchion a few times.
Right.
Go dab up all the Mavericks and Timberwolves in his street clothes. Yeah, I mean that place. It's already a pretty electric atmosphere at Target Center in these playoffs, but that would be next level if he were to show up. Let's go to John. What's going on, dude?
Phil, man, I wish when you came out here and met your dad, I would have loved to meet you. So, but shout out from Arizona. Good to be talking to you guys. I just want to say thanks to Score North, man. You guys have kept it. You guys have kept me connected like I never have been before, man. This year I got the ticket. Got to meet Jim Pete the first time hearing him, man. Best in the game. Timberwolves, best people in the game. Like they just seem like real. Like this is like the reason I want this to keep going and I don't want it to end is because I'm just having fun. Like I feel connected. Like when my kids were in like club softball, right? I was coaching that. Like I feel that connected, almost like a family. You guys are the glue that are doing it, man. So I just want to say shout out to you. And man, shout out to Ant. You know, I'm old enough to I'm almost sadly sports dad's age, which terrifies me a little bit. I never thought I hit that 5.
We need to get sports dad some of those white frame glasses that you're rocking very nicely, by the way.
Yeah, man. See, I feel bad. See, I thought I was cool. I got like 8 jerseys, so I picked this one thinking I'd be unique, and the dude in front of me wears it. Man, I'm all right. I must fall back with some of my other ones. That sucked. But man, so I'm old enough to remember Marino, right? My favorite quarterback, Frank Tarkenton really is. But man, that guy could throw darts, and I thought, like he probably thought he's going to be back, and he wasn't. So there's a part of me that's like, man, if we're going to do it, like the stars are lined, right? But then there's this other part of me that's like, nah. Basketball's different. One dude can make the difference. Man, at 23 years old, I have a daughter who's 22. I cannot believe, or she's 23 as well. I can't believe they're the same age. The amount of maturity that guy has. He says all the right quotes, all the right confidence. I mean, LeBron used to be so fun to watch for me when he'd do the chalk and he'd smile and dance and like have a blast. And then he became like LeBron, the whatever he is now, who's always serious and always seems like he hates basketball half the time. Like I don't get it. Like he was so fun. Ant's bringing that joy back, man. Like Ant makes me pumped to watch it. Ant says all the right things. I took my daughter. We sat behind the bench. Man, I wanted Jim Pete to take off those stupid headphones to dap him up. He was too locked in. But like we saw Ant play live, and I can say I shared that with my 15-year-old, right? Like her first NBA game, to watch him in person. Man, he's going to bring this. He's going to will this thing. The reason – I love what you said. We don't have to remember Minnesota of the past because, trust me, I want to. Man, I like – when he had those 3 plays where he threw it over everybody's head in the first game, I was like, this is it, man. It's old Minnesota all over again. They got my hopes up. But you know what? It's not over. I'm just happy for one more game. Maybe do one more and one more and one more. Man, but just props to you guys. Props to Ant, giving me hope. Man, it's going to even spill over. I might have hope for the Vikings, too, one of these days. I don't even know, man.
Wow. Don't go too far yet. Okay, let's just see. Let's one game at a time, one team at a time here.
Kirk's gone and Ant's here, right? So now we got to do is get JJ back and the stars alive. But I just want to say thank you to all you guys. And, man, props to Ant. Props to McDaniels, this whole team. Fun to watch. And just appreciate you guys and can't wait to see more.
Thank you, John. John in Phoenix, we appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, the mic'd up stuff is really fascinating. It's the second time in the series that Ant has been mic'd up. And to watch him, and it's not like fake rah-rah leadership stuff, to watch him at 22 years old looking at 30-year-old Rudy Gobert and 9-year veteran Karl Anthony Towns. And Mike Conley is out there, dude. That dude's been in the NBA for almost 2 decades. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, hey, huddle up now. Hey, get here. Huddle up right now. Guys, we need to rebound, right? And then they show him on the bench, and he's telling him, like, hey, desperation. If they win this game in 4, blah, 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 blah. To watch him lead like that at 22 is incredible. And again, like I said, I don't think it's fake rah-rah stuff. Mm-mm. They're engaged with him. They are buying into him. They are feeding off his energy. And then he's delivering by hitting these huge shots down the stretch and making the right play and coming up with steals. So, like, the mic'd up stuff has been a really interesting open window to the Anthony Edwards dynamic here, Artis.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite part is I think it might have been the third quarter or early in the fourth where there was like a loose ball. He was on the ground. And he's like on the ground barking, like barking. I thought that was hilarious. And like, I think it was Gafford that just gave him a pat on the back, like, dude, you're hilarious. Like, just having fun out there.
There was the other one where he after the whistle, and he does like a kind of a, I don't know, like a reverse layup and kind of spins the ball off the backboard. And then he runs by Kyrie and pats him on the ass and says, I learned that from you.
Yeah, it's nice to see him like having fun still, being down in this series 3-0 at the time. And it's like that transfers to the team when the star player isn't really concerned and is still, laughing, having a good time, trying to win, leading the team. The respect is there too. Like, they know. I mean, Kat said it himself, like, he's the face of the league, in my opinion. Like, that's what he said. He won't say it, but I think he's the face of the NBA right now. So the respect is there. They know if they're gonna win, he's gonna have to play well, right? And so he's taking that torch kind of from Kat, and Kat is still hold it to an extent, but because he's the number 2, but he's taking that torch and he's leading them to this far. Let's see how far they can go now, but you just love to see it, man, and it'll only get better with time.
Amen, dude. We'll get to Cam, we'll get to Duke here in just a second. A shout out also to our friends at EcoFun for helping power us through this Wolves playoff run. So EcoFun Motorsports is your summertime fun headquarters. As you can see on the YouTube channel, just a warehouse full of scooters, motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, premier brands like Yamaha, Kawasaki, Vespa. And for all your summertime fun on the water, you can visit the Forest Lake location, EcoFun, which has a fully stocked line of 2024 Kawasaki's and Yamaha watercraft. 2 locations for EcoFun Motorsports: Forest Lake, which also has the watercraft, and Burnsville, south of the metro. It's ecofunmotorsports.com, ecofunmotorsports.com. Duke,
What's
up,
up,
Duke?
guys? How we doing?
It's going good.
How are you
doing,
this
man?
fine evening?
I'm doing all right. How much time we got?
As much as you want, Duke.
All right, I got a whole list of notes here for you. I took a lot of notes from the first 3 games, and I just threw them all out because I was just too angry to even think about it. Just the effort, the rebounding, defense, all of it was just terrible. The first 3 games, they looked like they didn't want to be there. It was kind of like when Game 2 happened against Denver. They were just out of it. Didn't really want to try. Didn't want to play, except for Ant. Ant was trying, but he just played horribly. Just had a bad night. The defense in the first quarter, they really picked it up. And they were getting aggressive on Luka. They were making contact with Luka, but Luka was initiating the majority of the contacts, which is why I'm really happy they didn't make those calls, because it was kind of like what Jokic does, where he just kind of like gives a little shove with his elbow as he's going into the paint, except for Luka's just flailing his arms trying to get a whistle. And when he doesn't get it, he just turns and complains to the ref every single time. It's just infuriating. Offensively, the ball movement was a lot better, I noticed, especially in the third and fourth quarters when they were when the score got a lot tighter. They were moving the ball really well. It wasn't a lot of – early on in the game, it was a lot of Ant driving in and trying to draw fouls, which he did pretty well in the first quarter. But they kind of went away from that when he came off the court for the foul trouble. So the defense also kind of they opened the door and let them back in, because the fouls, having Cat off the floor and Rudy off the floor at the same time, was just pretty brutal. If you guys noticed, Kyle Anderson had a game.
He's had a
That's
series.
a good series, yeah.
He's had a series. It's a Kyle Anderson series.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even the offense though this game. It was mostly defense, because there were a couple times where he got switched onto Luka, and he can body Luka. I mean, no one's gonna shut Luka down entirely, but he can body Luka. And by the way, Duke, thank you, dude. Definitely come back on Wolves Vent Line here on Flagrant Howls. But it's funny because like the Phoenix series was not really a Kyle Anderson series, and there were parts of the Denver series. If you look at his like the Wolves when he's on the court versus off the court, it was kind of a train wreck. But he's been a facilitator. He's just a guy. Luka's such an interesting
body type, because you can't just throw Jaden McDaniels on him like you can with most of the league's top scoring perimeter players and be like, Jaden will just kind of extinguish this guy. He's less affected by Jaden McDaniels than a lot of other players. And so, I mean, hell, even just this has been touched on briefly, Artis, but the decision to start the game and throughout different chunks of the game, put Jaden McDaniels on Kyrie Irving and put Anthony Edwards on Luka Doncic. Edwards did a great job contesting a lot of Luka shots, just making life hard. And Kyrie was clearly bothered by Jaden McDaniels' length, and to the point where he didn't even like shoot very much early in the game, I feel like. So to some extent, those guys just missed shots, but also that defensive switch up, I think, played a role in those guys combining to go, what's the math here? 13 for 39 between Luka and Kyrie. Really interesting.
I think it's a switch up that they should have went to a little bit earlier, but I think they feared Ant getting in foul trouble dealing with Luka. You know, and I think it was the third foul, maybe the third or the fourth foul of the game where he fouled Luka. I think it was the third, where I was just like, what are you? Because he got frustrated because he got fouled on the opposite end, and then Luka comes down and he just does that crazy reach and gets a foul and gets taken out of the game. But Luka, length, in my opinion, just watching Luka, length doesn't really bother him like that because he's got that weird release, similar to Jokic, where he can just release it at this really high release point and get a shot off. But muscle mass and size does bother him to an extent. So, you know, and he kind of looks small on TV, but he's in person. He's a pretty bulky guy. And same thing with Kyle Anderson. He has the size, he has length, but he has muscle mass. And it's weird because he's slow-mo, that's the nickname, but Luka's also kind of slow-mo at times,
it is,
right? So, you know, they move at the same pace, and so it kind of matches up well. And I think Kyle does a really good job of defending without fouling as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Cam here next on this live Flagrant House. Cam, what up, dude?
What's up, guys? Hey, can you hear me?
Are you at work right now?
Yeah, I was about to say I've been at work, so I had to listen to the game. I got to listen to the lovely Alan Horton and Jim Pete do their thing on the call. I got to watch a little bit of it, but I was going to bring up Kyle Anderson too. He only got 2 points, 1 of 3 from the floor, but 3 steals, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, and was just a crucial part of the game. Cat and Ant combined for 10 more points than Kyrie and Luka, and that ultimately helped them win the game in this one. So it's good that they got their offense going in. Yeah. Thanks
not
for having
booking
me on, guys.
not booking those vacation flights yet, my man. Not booking those vacation flights yet.
Nope.
There he is, Cam. Thanks for coming on this live edition of Flagrant Howls. So, 2 things, if you're still hanging out with us, and there's over 2,000 people still hanging out with us after this Game 4 win. Wolves still alive. It's 11 o'clock p.m. Central Time. 2 things to help us continue to grow Flagrant Howls and Score North. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button and the like button on the Score North YouTube channel and on this video specifically. It helps us keep growing this thing. Flagrant Howls, as of I think it's dipped off as the Wolves have lost, but at one point last week it was 7th on the national Apple basketball podcast chart. So thank you guys for jumping on board here at Flagrant Howls. Also, we have a ton of fun merch over at the Score North shop, scorenorth.com/shop. That's scorenorth.com/shop for your Bring Ya Ass apparel, your Wolves culture apparel, your Break Every Record shirts and hooded sweatshirts and all kinds of other stuff. JJ to JJ on the Purple Daily front. You can find all sorts of fun things at scorenorth.com/shop, our merchandise shop. So, Artis, before we say goodbye, any other final thoughts from Mr. Undefeated, yourself, 3-0? Whenever you jump on Flagrant Howls post game, they win a playoff game. So any final thoughts from you?
Hey, man, I got really good luck, man. I got really good luck. But they just made it a series. In my opinion. I think I give them a good shot. My biggest thing was winning tonight. Obviously, you want to avoid the sweep. There was a bit of extra juice the team comes out with trying to avoid the sweep. So you obviously want to do that. And we saw a bit of the juice come out today trying to avoid the sweep. I give them a really decent shot at winning at home. I really do. Now, going back to Dallas, might be having a different conversation, but maybe we can get some positive feel at that time, right? And, he can have us all feeling better about the possibility of going back to Dallas and winning. But ultimately, this is about Karl Anthony Towns, and it is about Anthony Edwards continuing this momentum into the next few games, in my opinion, or at least let's one game at a time into the next game. They could carry this momentum into the next game. I expect Jaden to play better. I expect Nas and those guys to play better at home. And we'll see how long Luka and Kyrie can play at the level that they played in the first 3 games of the series. Because again, they were shooting lights out. And while they are great players, they were putting up statistically historic numbers. So I knew they would come down a bit off of this high shooting performances every single night, hitting every shot, no matter if there was a hand in their face or not in the fourth. Really incredible to watch. And I kind of figured at some point, so long as they didn't get swept, Cat, who's a great shooter, was gonna start making shots at some point. Every great shooter goes through slumps, but maybe he can kick this up. So I'm optimistic about getting this back to Dallas. That's as far as I'll go for now, though.
Yeah.
As far as I'll go for now.
Yeah, drink some whiskey shots like the 2004 Red Sox and go out there and play loose at home. I would say just 3 final quick things from me. And also, if people want to follow you on social media, if they're just discovering Artis Woods for the first time, where can people follow you?
Literally my name. So ARTISWOODS. That's Twitter, that's Instagram, TikTok. All of my ats are the same. So literally my name. If you found this on Twitter, I retweeted this, so it's on my page. If you go through the retweets, it's there. So just my name. You know, I've been given advice. So I'll change it. You don't need the little flashy at name. Just your name is unique enough. So Artis Woods, at Artis Woods is where you find all of my socials.
And I'm at Phil Mackey on Twitter/X and Instagram. Just a few final thoughts here. I would say, number one, if they win Game 5 at home, which they are 4.5-point favorites right now.
Really?
They are favored to win Game 5 at home. Going to be a crazy atmosphere. Things get really tight and interesting for Dallas going back home. Really tight and interesting. Point number 2 that we haven't really touched on. Scott Foster, the extender, did his job tonight.
He did.
By extending the series. I don't think officiating there was a couple little things here and there, but I don't think officiating pushed this game over the top. There was a couple things, but it was mostly just 2 teams throwing haymakers. And then number 3, mostly for Charles Barkley and the TNT crew. No, it was not snowing in Minnesota today, okay? A lot of pollen in the air. It is 70 degrees. The sun was shining in the afternoon, okay? It was not snowing. There was a video going around. I think it was it Barstool or Awful Announcing? Someone put a video out of, or maybe it was John Boy, of a Target Field. It looked like from the center field camera that there was snow falling at Target Field. It was just, pollen was everywhere today.
Yeah.
So Charles, don't worry, Chuck. You don't need your winter jackets, your hooded sweatshirts. You'll be fine with just a golf shirt. And you can still sit on the patio outside at Porzana or JD Hoyt's or wherever you wind up dining when you come back to Minneapolis. Bring your ass back. Don't need a jacket.
Indeed.
So calm down.
I agree. And I don't know how I feel about Draymond being on the TNT crew for the Wolves games. I really don't like it. That's a gripe for another day. But I cannot stand it. But again, gripe for another day.
It's petty.
I'll leave it alone.
It's a lot of pettiness on that panel.
It is.
So. All right, that's a wrap here on this post-game edition of Flagrant House, live on the Score North YouTube channel. The Timberwolves stay alive with a Game 4 win in Dallas, bringing it back home to Target Center on Thursday night, 105-100. He's Artis Woods. For the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, we're thinking about you. Kyle Teige is jumping back in tomorrow. We'll also be catching up sometime in the next several days with Jim Peterson, Michael Grady. They've been great contributors on Flagrant Howls. Thank you guys for sticking with us. This is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.